Hello disc golfers, this is Rodney from the DG Puttheads. It's been a while since I've done it in the bag, so I wanted to show you what I'm carrying now. Everything's changed since the last one. We'll start with drivers. I've been throwing the Zeus Kong since it came out when Paul joined Discraft. Really like it. I don't get a lot of turn on it, but it has a nice straight flight for me and a very consistent fading finish. This is not my max distance driver, but it's very consistent at that speed. When I need something to turn over at that speed, I'm throwing the Crystal Sparkle Thrasher. The Sparkle one tends to not turn over as much, which is actually really good. The other Thrashers I tried, they all turn just a little bit too much. This one, especially in a heavy tailwind, this flies really well for me. My main driver that I've been using for quite a while now is the Punisher, and specifically the Ledgestone edition, the Swirl ESP Punisher. I've been throwing this green one a long time, and it definitely has some turn to it, but this one I can get out there and pretty much I can pick my landing spot with it, which is pretty good with the driver. This one I just put in my bag. It's pretty new, so this one goes straighter and has a little bit more fade. And then this one I got out of Chris's bag after he broke it in, and this one kind of turns over, which is great at that distance. If I need something a little shorter, I'm throwing the Undertaker. The peach one turns a little more than the titanium one, but they're both really reliable, really consistent, and I can throw them pretty much anytime. In super high winds, or if I really need something to hook up at the end, I've been testing out the Anax. This gets zero turn for me, goes out there and fades quite a bit. If I angle it right, I can get a nice skip at the end. This throws a lot like the Crush that Chris really loves. And finally, for drivers, if I need something to turn over at that distance, I'm throwing the Heat, and specifically the titanium Heat. Similar to the Crystal Thrasher, this one doesn't turn over as much. If I throw a nice hyzer flip with this, it gets a really long turnover flight. In kind of a utility role, I'm throwing the Raptor. It's a pretty cool swirl here. This is a lot like a Firebird. This kind of gets me out of trouble. It just doesn't go very far. And then up next is the Zombie, which I use for a lot of straight shots and anything that I can't quite get a mid-range to, but something like the Undertaker would be a little too much. And that brings us to my buzzes. So the Big Z, I've got a Pro D one here, and then a Paul ESP Swirl. Pretty much all of these fly a little different. The Pro D one turns over a little more. It's also, I really like this plastic for when it's wet from rain or early in the morning dew. Just has a little better grip. This blue and pink swirl one I can throw perfectly straight, and that's probably my favorite disc in my bag. And then, as cool as the Big Z one is, it's really in my bag for times when I don't want to throw the other two at risk of throwing them in the water or off a cliff or something like that. If I need something to turn over more than the Pro D Buzz, I've been throwing the Soul. This turns over a lot and it requires a significant amount of touch to throw, and I don't quite have all of that. This reminds me of the flight of a comet, but it doesn't feel as awful as a comet. Same thing on the other side. If I need it to really cut at the end and I need something reliable in the wind, the Buzzz OS is perfect. This one specifically is pretty flexible. It's almost like a Z Flex, even though it's not labeled as such. This one I get a nice straight flight for most of it, and then it really has a nice curve at the end. Now we're into the putters, which of course is our favorite part. First up, this Crystal Sparkle MDGO, Michigan Disc Golf Association organization. Zone, this is great. This really hooks up at the end. This is possibly my most overstable disc in the bag. Maybe the Raptor is close. This is very utility type purposes on those approaches when I need it to sit down quick. For other approaches, the Jawbreaker Zone is fantastic. This flies straight and has a nice consistent fade at the end, but really goes pretty straight. If you're familiar with something like an Axiom Envy or something like that, this really mimics that. As they break in, the Jawbreaker, they tend to flatten, and actually this one's puddled a little bit, and that tends to make them go straighter. Really love this disc for pretty much all range of approaches, forehand and backhand. And then finally, up near the basket in the circle putting, I am putting with Lunas now. I really like these. This American flag Luna, we've been through a lot together. I actually lost it for about a month and a half in a pond, and we dug it out. It's great. This one, because I've had it so long, and maybe because it's at the bottom of a pond for a month, tends to go a little straighter and turn over on higher power shots. But those low power 150-foot approaches, I can pretty much put this right where I need it. And then this other one is my in the circle putter. I actually buy these Lunas for their grip. I really like this plastic. This is not the first run, this is the production run, which is a little softer than the first run. It's kind of an interesting thing. So I like that little bit of softness, especially in the cooler temperatures when baskets tend to reject more putts. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully you're able to get out and play some disc golf soon. I'd be interested to know your experience with any of these discs. As you noticed, I've switched to all DISCRAFT. I don't really have a reason for that other than they're the local company and we like supporting local.
Before I go, I wanted to show you our flight chart tool that was used to generate the charts that you saw in this video. You can view individual discs, compare them at different arm speeds, and even build a visualization of your bag. We also have a putter selector to help you narrow down what putters you should test based on some important characteristics. And don't forget to check out our plastic database where you can compare plastics across all manufacturers. Thanks so much for watching. When it's safe, get out there and just throw.